Okay, this video is way late and overdue, and I'm sure that maybe nobody cares anymore, but I'm going to review Spider-Man No Way Home anyway. So, first off the bat, I overall really liked this movie. I thought it did a good job bringing back the villains. I will say, the fact that it did rely on a lot of non-MCU movies was a little to me. But having watched those movies in preparation, I did like what No Way Home did with the villains, and even managed to give most of them arcs. Lizard and Sandman, not so much, but the other three definitely all had really fulfilling arcs in the movie. Green Goblin was menacing, properly menacing. Doc Ock was, not that different than he was in Spider-Man 2, but he had a good arc. And then Electro was, I think, better used here than he was in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I still don't know how he made it over, though, given that he never knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and that was, the whole thing. But anyway, so overall, it was really good. I loved the three Spider-Men and their chemistry together. It was just really fun watching them interact and, all the inside jokes. Especially my favorite moment, I think, in the whole movie was Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man catching MJ and, redeeming himself for that moment that he couldn't get with Gwen. So all that stuff with Tobey and Andrew Spider-Man was pretty good. And obviously had some of the energy of Into the Spider-Verse, which is a movie I really liked. So yeah, that was all really fun. And of course, I love, the main Spider-Man trio of, Peter, MJ, and Ned, and that all fun stuff. I liked that I love Ned's arc of learning to do magic. I thought that was really cool. We finally learned more about MJ and her life. We hadn't really known much about her life before this. We just knew, who she was at school, but we got to see, her job and, learn a little bit about her family, and that was pretty cool. And we got to meet Ned's grandma, who was great. That was all really good, learning more about them, and I want and really hope we see more of them, but I'm worried because of the ending, which I'll circle back to. But overall, just it was pretty well paced. There was no point where it felt like the movie dragged. If anything, even though it was 2.5 hours, I kind of wish it had been longer, just so we could have gotten more of all the characters interacting. Doctor Strange, I thought, was used pretty well. He wasn't overshadowing Peter and his arc, but he was, providing the supporting role, providing the magic, and a fair bit of emotion too, actually, because at the end, when Peter's saying that he has to cast the final spell, and he's saying, everyone who loves you will forget about you, he says we, including himself in that, and showing that he really has grown to care for Peter, and I just think it's really sweet. And showing more emotion out of Strange than I think we've seen from him in all of his previous MCU appearances, except for, I guess, his What If episode. But yeah, definitely setting us up for Multiverse of Madness, which I am quite excited for because I liked this and I loved WandaVision, so yeah, I'm really excited to see what we get with Multiverse of Madness. Worried, but excited. So yeah, that was all really great setup. We didn't get much of Wong, but what we got was pretty fun. He's the Sorcerer Supreme now, so good for him. I don't know where, how this fits in Shang-Chi and what he was doing there, but yeah, overall, just I liked it a lot. There were some things that I did not like, though, and namely, mostly, the death of Aunt May. It was fridging. There's really not much of a way around that. They killed off a female character solely for the motivation of a male character. That is fridging. And the main thing is, it's not just that it was fridging. It felt completely unnecessary for the story to me, because Peter didn't need to learn the great power comes great responsibility lesson again, because he already learned it in his previous movies. Maybe he didn't actually have someone directly say it to him, sure, but he learned that, he especially learned that in, at least in Infinity War and Endgame, where he literally saved the universe. I understand that it's part of the Peter Parker origin story, but when you have a Peter Parker who's already saved the universe, he understands great responsibility already, and I think Far From Home was really him learning about responsibility and taking on that mantle, so he did not need to learn that message again, I don't think. Also, And more importantly, even if he did need that motivation from Aunt May, she didn't need to die. A character does not need to be dead to motivate another character. Like, I understand that it's the classic part of his origin story, and they just sort of replaced Uncle Ben with Aunt May. But A, they've already implied that there was an Uncle Ben in the MCU, so they could have had him already have done that off screen. B, he already had another dead mentor figure in Tony, so he really did not need another death on his conscience or in his life in order to motivate him, and she already had convinced him to do the right thing just by telling him to do the right thing, and he listened to her. She did not need to die for that to work, and it really felt like her death did not add anything to the story, and I felt like the only reason they did it was so that they could clear up the narrative logistical thing with her at the end, because she wasn't there and she wouldn't forget him. But it just felt unnecessary and honestly pulled me out of the movie. The first time I watched it especially, I was so angry that they were actually doing this. It completely pulled me out. The second time, I tried not to be as angry, and but still, I didn't even feel the sadness I was supposed to feel at that moment, because I was just so angry the movie was doing this, because Aunt May has been a great character in the MCU, and I feel like she's had a bit of an arc of her own and was really well played, and she could have done more just as her own character in the MCU, even aside from how she was tied to Peter, but they killed her off for Peter, and that is fridging. And yeah, I didn't like it. And she also helped motivate Happy, but that's another male character being motivated by her death, so it's still fridging, and I don't like it, and I wish they hadn't done it, and that is my one major gripe with the movie. I also didn't love the ending, not as much from a narrative standpoint, just as from a fan standpoint. I'm just unhappy, I want Peter to be happy, and I want him to be with his friends, and he's not, and they forgot about him, and that's just... The problem is, we don't know if we're getting more of him necessarily. There's potential deals for more Spider-Man movies, but it's unclear if Tom Holland's going to be in them. So if this is how they leave his story, I don't like this ending for his story, because MJ and Ned are a major part of the story, and while I liked his character, I liked his chemistry with them more than I just liked him on his own. I want them to be part of his story, and I'm not honestly that interested in a movie of his that doesn't have either of them in it. I'll watch it, but I like their characters a lot, and I don't want them to be out of the story. Now, hopefully they'll get their memories back at some point. That's what I'm hoping for, but I didn't love that ending. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a good ending for his character. And also, the idea that he has to be punished because he wanted everything. All he wanted was for his friends to be able to get into college. Not even himself. He was just working so that his friends wouldn't have their lives ruined. And the movie treats it as if that's him asking for too much, and therefore he has to be punished. I don't think that's asking for too much. He deserves to have a good life, and his friends deserve to have a good life. And, I don't think he was asking for too much at all. So I don't think he deserved to be punished. He just was trying to do a good thing and ended up getting punished for it. And that's just not fair. That's not right. I want the characters that I care about to be happy. I like happy endings. Call me a sucker, but I don't love stories that end on depressing or especially open-ended things. I want my endings to... They don't have to be fairy tale, everyone rode off into the sunset happily ever after, but I want them to be at least an uplifting note, and this is just not that. But I did, like I said, it may sound so that I spent a lot of time talking about my problems with it, that I didn't like the movie. I did like the movie. I didn't like those elements of it, which are sort of more for their implications going forward than in the actual movie itself. Really for both of them, because it's more the lack of Aunt May in the future, and then this ending. So, the movie itself, I still really enjoyed watching, enough that I watched it again, obviously, and thought about watching it a third time. But yeah, it's a really good movie. I don't necessarily love the implications it sets up. I also didn't totally understand all of the villain motivation, mostly Sandman's motivation. If all he wanted was to go back to his daughter, why would he not want a cure? But yeah, overall, though, like I said, the character interactions were really great. That's the problem, is I didn't talk as much about the good parts, because, it would just be with, me with, reenacting the clips of all of the, mostly the three Peters interacting. That was gold. All of it was just gold. like I said, especially Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saving MJ, and the whole also the whole "you're amazing" thing, the "I love you," the Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. I mean, it was all just great. And Andrew Garfield was actually the standout for me. I know this is not entirely an unpopular opinion. I've seen a lot of people saying he was really good, but I mentioned after I watched the Tobey and Andrew movies that I thought Andrew was actually a better actor, and I don't know if I like him or Tom better in this, but Andrew Garfield was really good in this. And yeah, I know the Oscars don't do like superhero movies, but I honestly think he would deserve a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this. Like, he was really good in this, and he's a really good actor, and I'm gonna watch more stuff that he's in. But yeah, anyway, so overall, I really enjoyed this movie. Sorry this review is like a month and a half late. I just have been busy, but yeah, let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments.